right, everybody. We've wanted to do this discussion for a while. It's somewhat controversial, but that's kind of what we always wanted to do on News Tonight, are these discussions that everyone else is kind of afraid to have. So this is an interesting discussion. Tonight it's cast member pet peeves. I don't mean what are cast members annoyed about. I mean, what do we as guests, what are some of the things that... And yes, Pete, we don't hate cast members. I want to clarify that right out of the gate.
I'm starting with a disclaimer.
I don't come out of the gate and hate all cast members. It's not a thing. This is about, there are certainly, in any workplace, there are people who do their job correctly and there are people who don't. And the Walt Disney Company is not exempt from that. Mm-hmm. Right? So tonight it's about cast members who maybe aren't the best, what they do that we were really annoyed about, our pet peeves with cast members at Walt Disney World.
Yeah.
So I'm going to open the floor, you guys. Whoever wants to jump in first, who's not Pete, defending everybody before we've even made a case.
I'll go last.
Well, I mean, I think we should set up why this is such a sort of a contentious thing. It's because many cast members feel very defensive towards any sort of critique. Mostly because, and I don't mean this in a bad way, they are educated in such a way to sort of, you know, they believe in these policies. Usually the ones that are the most upset are the best cast members. You know, generally you don't find bad cast members that are also like super defensive of the company. And I think that's key. I think there's a lot of people out there that their passion for it is, you know, and their defense of it, it might be a little over exuberant, but at the same time, it comes from a special place. It comes from a place where they actually believe in what they're doing. I think that's important. And, you know, it's a positive note to start with, I suppose. But
I think it's the opposite way around.
Interesting.
I don't think good cast members go out of their way to be upset that people are critiquing cast members. I think it's the people who are kind of just not doing the job. I think it's the other way. I think that's the same in any workplace. I don't think because it's Disney, it makes it, like, because it's Disney, there is a higher standard. I don't think it changes what a workplace is. I don't think the company cares enough anymore for it to not be this place where you have people that go above and beyond, people come in and do the bare minimum, and then people who come in and just do not do anything at all, you know? I think it's the same as any other workplace.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of because the company doesn't train people the way they used to train people, and I just don't think they care as much as they used to care.
When did that change, or was it ever different than that?
I think it's a slow cultural change. I think, and I think Japan makes that clear, because Japan has existed almost as much time as Walt Disney World. If you look at it, I mean, it's only
actually
what, 12,
Japan
12
as a
years
country has existed longer.
I'm talking about the park. Thank you.
Japan's been around since about Walt Disney World, 71.
You know what I meant. So, I mean, it's only a 12-year difference. And in that time, I think the standards have been withheld as far as the level of service in Tokyo, as opposed to Florida, where I think we've obviously noticed, and enough people say it where I don't think it can't be true, there has been a decline in quality. I'm not saying you do not have cast members who still go above and beyond, and maybe above and beyond even what people did in the past. Mm-hmm. Certainly a case. I always run into good cast members all the time. But I feel like for as many good cast members as I run into some people who are just doing some crazy stuff that they should not be doing. And a great example would be, one of mine is these character Nazis. I don't know if I can use that term, but it's...
I'm not sure you...
Wait, Nazi was on Seinfeld. Why not, right?
Hey, guys, we want to have a nice, calm conversation about this. Some people are Nazis, but, you know, nice, calm conversation.
So we go... Josh and I went to meet Mickey and Minnie at Town Square Theater the other day. And we are the only people... We are at the end of the line in the room, so we're the last people in there.
First time, long time.
Only people in the room with the characters. Mm-hmm. And so I step up alone. We wanted individual pictures, so I step up alone to meet Mickey and Minnie. The cast member immediately starts screaming at Josh that he has to move from where he is waiting in line as if he's going to meet them separately. Starts yelling at him like he has to get to the other side of the PhotoPass cast member immediately.
Yeah.
And she just wouldn't stop bothering him about it. It was crazy. And he's trying to get there, and she's repeating it as he's walking across the space to get to that spot. She's like trying to almost push him into place. And I'm like, lady, we're meeting a character. It's not like there's a ride vehicle that could possibly kill him. There's also no one behind us at this point. You have still not loaded this line again. if there are people behind us, I'd be way more understanding. Only people in the room, what was the difference if he just waited as if he was the next guest, and then after I was done, he just stepped in?
I think some cast members can't make the adjustment between crowds. I think that's an issue. I think that sometimes
they're just kind of stuck
they
in their
get
way.
stuck in the other day we were at Everest and someone was checking lap bars and one was going, just hit your lap bar, and the other person was going lap bar, lap bar, lap bar, lap bar, lap bar, lap bar. And then I was like, I wonder if they'll do it the next time we do it, because we were going on and off, right? This was the evening. It was 5-minute wait. Lap bar, lap bar, lap bar, lap bar, lap bar. And so for me, I realized, this is not her being rude. She has been doing this for 4 hours or whatever, and
she's just
exactly.
Yeah.
She remembers where she
But
is
did that
at the
bother
high.
you?
It did bother me.
Oh, okay.
And I think the reason it bothers me is because I always blame these things on management more than cast members sometimes, because they're not trained to deal with specific situations or multiple situations, I should say. They're dealt with this is what you do at the when things are the craziest, and they just keep that level of intensity no matter if it's a 5-minute wait or a 2-hour wait. And I think that can really seem rude when in your scenario when it's like, well, what's the problem? It's just us. So anyway, I keep talking. People.
Yeah.
I'll say this. So just strictly pertaining to Tom's story, in that situation, I also think that is a case of mistraining where she has been, or he or she, they're very strict at Disney, especially with their cast members, where they're like, the person has to be here, and that person's taking it so seriously. Granted, it doesn't matter where Josh stands at all, but she was told he has to be here, and now she's freaking out because her job's on the line. She might be a newer cast member. Or he or she, and they're become a rules monger because this person has to stand there. You have to stand here. You can't stand over there. That's gonna throw everything off. Mickey will collapse. It takes a little bit of getting used to.
Worlds will crumble. Cats and dogs living together. Mass hysteria. Right? And I'm not necessarily blaming her. I don't know who does the training. I don't know what they're told. It just felt
it's easing
psychotic.
into your position and feeling out the Disney company.
There's four people in that room. There's a PhotoPass man, a cast member, and 2 big dudes. And I don't know, she was screaming at him about it. I'm like, lady, he's going next. What if he was not with me? Would you make him stand there?
At least you had a PhotoPass person and not a PhotoPass box.
That's true. That's
very true.
The PhotoPass box can't tell you where to stand.
Well, I guess along those lines,
it will snap at you.
One of the things that I have definitely seen in my workplace lately is that people, number one, they have an inability to think of outside the box. And I think that's what you're talking about with the lap bar.
Yeah.
That's
There's also a lot of young kids working at Disney World, so
That's
probably
fine,
not a
yeah.
ton of real world work experience.
Well, and our brains are not fully developed till we're 20. So you have a lot of people that are still figuring out. This is just. I
tell people all the time when they say how can Disney afford to pay all these people? I go, you have old college students and retired.
They don't.
Yeah, that's
they have figured out the most
it's college students and
brilliant
retired people. These are people who are just starting their career or don't care anymore and they just want to retire somewhere happy.
Right.
That's most of the staff you'll run into in the parks.
And I mean, to Tom's point, I mean that what Tom experienced, that's a cast member not thinking outside the box, not recognizing the situation and adapting to it. And also, I feel like the workplace nowadays, I think that maybe this is something cultural and new, but I don't know. They're just working to, and I guess as some people always did, they're just working to please the boss and do what they're supposed to do right now. They're not thinking of the overall picture. What the guest is feeling, and that's a shame. They're doing what they have to do to accomplish their job right now and get to the next person, to get to the next group of people.
But the sad part is that especially in Walt Disney World, there's the guest who takes advantage of these people, and then that is where the problem is. Is that granted you can say, okay, this is the right thing to do or not the right thing to do, and then you have people who take advantage of those cast members. And then eventually those cast members, get in trouble, or we have to adhere to the rules. I totally get what you're saying. It's because of people take advantage too. I'm sorry.
I honestly think Pete is really gotten to the root of the problem, because this is potentially a lot of the reason why the service level has gone down at Walt Disney World. I mean, it's not necessarily a coincidence that the rise of the internet and all these secrets about how to, get your money's worth at Walt Disney World or whatever, people come in with this entitlement mentality. That's all related to the decrease in service.
And I'm not saying.
And
I think a lot of it is Disney's fault because, like you've said, I think there's a lot of people who come in with that entitlement and they're real nasty to cast members, which you shouldn't be. Like, I am not nasty despite what people claim. Idiots make stories. Yeah. Or he yelled at people. You don't understand what's going on. You shouldn't talk. The thing is, like, people do come in and you should not just be automatically mean to any person in your life. I do not go into any situations like that. Do I get mean after a cast member does something that I probably deem idiotic? Maybe. Like maybe they give the person in front of me a bag for their Orange Bird sippers, and then maybe I'm literally 3 seconds behind him and ask for a bag, and they say we don't have bags, as I watch them take the bags out of a box.
Yeah.
I mean,
but at the same time, they have not seen these Orange Bird sippers till like 2 minutes ago, and they have no idea what's going on.
But they also just gave someone a bag. But that's beyond the point. The point is that they are not paid enough to care. They're not paid enough to care. They're not paid enough to think critically. They're treated like garbage by management, and there's horrible politics within that company, and all of that makes for a toxic work environment that creates the mindset and the level of care that there is now at Walt Disney World and Disneyland for the same matter.
David, you were trying to say something earlier. What were you trying to say?
Well, I actually want to go back to what Nick had asked earlier around whether it's gotten worse or it's just the perception that it's gotten worse. And I think there's a very clear correlation between the amount of training that they give to new cast members and the amount of indoctrination into the Disney way. As we've seen that reduce over the years, we've seen the level of service also reduce correspondingly.
Yep,
so,
absolutely.
To what everybody's been saying, the level of training has gone down. Clearly, you can blame this on Disney. They've also stopped training managers how to coach people.
Yeah.
How to teach people how to be reasonable in situations, how to remain on, even if you're dealing with a very difficult situation. And there's no doubt that cast members deal with difficult people constantly.
Yeah.
But even though they have to remember that they are on stage and that the show is going on, and they have to stay within that. No matter what type of bad day they're having, the next guest that comes along could be the one that needs them to be in character on show. So it's a difficult thing to get across. Yeah.
This is exactly a difference, a huge difference between United States parks and the Tokyo Disneyland Resort, because there is much better training at Tokyo Disneyland. It's the training that Florida used to give in the 1980s.
Well, let's be clear. Bill Sullivan, Disney legend, is the one who went over there and taught them how to run a theme park. And Bill Sullivan is the man who created most of the training manuals we use at Walt Disney World. So people say it's a cultural difference. It really shouldn't be, because the odds are Disney is known for service because Disney service was always better than everybody else. Even if culture was different in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, Disney service was still deemed better than anywhere else. Despite what cultural trends have changed and how people are different, the level of service is supposed to remain the same because of what Disney is and how it trains its people to be.
I talked to Solly for Dreamfinders, shameless plug.
Oh yeah, you just released this one, didn't you?
No, this one's I was just talking about it. It's coming up in a couple months because I'm editing it right now.
Okay.
But Solly made this very interesting point when I was talking to him about we talked about it, and he said, yeah, I went over there, and why they are so good at is they followed what we told them to the letter.
Yeah.
They didn't try to change it. They didn't try to change it to like their culture or anything like that. They
didn't try to cheap out.
Right. They did exactly what we told them to do, and they did it well. And the thing is while here in Florida, and probably California you could add, things are evolving and shifting, that has not changed for them. They have towed the line.
They are a rule-oriented culture.
Yes.
You do not deviate
Tradition
from the rules.
is so much more important to them.
Yeah.
And this is the tradition, which ipso facto is the tradition that was set up by Walt.
But tradition is also like what the Walt Disney Company teaches. So the fact where their training is called traditions.
They treat
Yeah.
what they teach is nostalgia. They don't teach.
But that's the problem.
Yeah, that's my yeah.
The other
I
thing,
am
also
more
comes up-
forgiving of cast members not knowing the history of the company if they at least know the values of the company.
Yeah.
But keep
That
in
is
mind
way
too,
more
that's
important.
your numbers business-wise are going in opposite directions as well, where we're paying cast members less than what the average living wage in the country is right now.
Yeah, no,
and
it's
also
terrible.
and also guests are paying more than they've ever spent going into the parks per day. So now guests have
So
a
they should
higher standard
expect
where
a premium
they're
experience.
paying
Yeah.
10% of their yearly income to come to Disney,
Yeah.
and they're paying the cast members less
Yeah.
than the normal living wage, so they don't care as much because they lose their job. They can get another job paying the same amount up the road, if not more.
Right,
So
and
I mean,
that's
there's
really
a
an
big,
untenable situation.
Yeah.
That can't continue that way
Yeah.
because eventually either cast members are going to stop wanting to work there or guests are going to stop coming because they're paying for a premium experience that they're not getting. And I think that situation is going to come to a head probably sooner rather than later at the rate that prices are going up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, people will bring up this rate thing they're doing where what it's going to go to 15. They're going to go to. I mean, that's the minimum
13,
wage.
14, 15 over the next 3 years.
Nationwide, though, that's going to be the minimum wage. So they're still paying them minimum wage no
Minimum
matter
wage,
what.
yeah.
So what grand thing, what wonderful thing are they doing for people? The only thing I've seen them do where I was like, wow, I'm kind of surprised, is the thing where they're paying for them to go to school, which I think is a wonderful program. But other than that, I mean, they don't care. They have found the college program and the international program, which is, I don't want to be mean,
Amazing for them.
legal slave labor.
Whoa.
It absolutely is. They put 10 of them in an apartment. They pay them nothing. They've like locked them into property where they then pretty much have to spend that paycheck on property anyway. They're like trapped here. It's absolutely.
You've never pledged a fraternity?
It's a nasty situation.
Yeah, but
it's not great.
fraternities
Hold
are
on.
gross too.
As somebody who did college program and went through traditions,
Preach.
God, as I'm saying this, I just have come to realize that it was almost 10 years ago, and that just made me feel really old.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know.
Just kidding.
Made me forget what I was going to say.
Sorry. Go ahead, old lady.
A little bit, I will say. I will. Okay, so.
Let me guess. You're losing your thoughts. Put yourself together.
I am.
Alicia's not going to agree to be on this show anymore if Pete is on.
Pete.
Sorry. No, I love Ashley. Go ahead.
please.
Wait, what? Okay. Anyway, there is some truth to what Tom is saying as far as the slave labor issue. It is and it isn't. And maybe as a former cast member, I have this philosophy. If you went into it, and this is probably true of any cast member, because I met people who went into it, all sunshines and rainbows is Disney. We're just going to hang out and ride rides all day. We're going to work for a couple hours, and then it's going to be fun. It's still a job. And the reality is it's a job where you're going to be held to a higher standard. If that's not something that you can handle, then maybe you should choose a different company to work for.
I think we also need.
Go ahead. I get that people like Disney, and don't get me wrong, they were not a great company to work for all the time. But at least traditions, and now granted, this is the caveat of 10 years ago, and I definitely think training has gone downhill even since then, because it does frustrate me when cast members say, well, I don't know, because that was the one thing we were told you don't say. You don't say, I don't know. I mean, even working housekeeping at Contemporary, I was supposed to know everything about everything. And if I didn't know, you don't say, I don't know. It was, I'm not really sure. Let me find out for you. And you take them to somebody who can find out for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that just doesn't happen anymore. It's like, well, I don't know. Go ask, they don't care. And that's frustrating. But at the same token, I think it is a little bit of everything. There's lack of training. They're not treating them well. But at the same time, you still have all these standards for, service. And then when they pitch it to them, people aren't going in with a realistic expectation. They think they're going to go work for a fun company. And at the end of the day, it's still a company. You still have to work. And it's a high stress company.
Yeah. I think we're also.
I also want to say.
losing, sorry.
Go ahead. You want to
Okay.
respond?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think it's something we've not talked about, too, is really the impact of the internet. We've mentioned it a little bit, but it's sort of twofold, right? So, for one, people are walking around on their phones in line all the time, and they're not paying attention. Yeah. So that makes it a lot harder for them to do what they need to do as cast members. And two, it is far easier for people to complain online about a cast member that maybe was a little rude. I'm not excusing the cast members' actions, but the light is shined on cast members in a way that certainly wasn't in 1955. Yeah. And because of that, I think that we also have this perception of like a ruder sort of cast member, and I'm not 100% sure. I think it's the culture has evolved and changed, and it's probably not always for the best. But I also think that we have a more negative light than maybe we're giving credence to, because I think there were certainly rude cast members back in the day, and maybe they got fired faster, but we didn't hear about them. It wasn't like, on the news, cast members today.
But I go based on like personal experiences,
of course.
And I feel like for the longest time, even like early 2000s, when no one was coming, I don't remember having bad cast members. I don't remember people not knowing how to load boats at rides and like things like that. I don't remember the situation I've now seen. This has happened at least twice in the last couple months, where I have seen someone ask a custodial cast member in a park, where's the nearest restroom? And they were standing probably 40 feet from the restroom, and they just kind of looked around and went, and I'm not even joking, I would let 30 seconds go by before I was finally like, I'm going to help this person, and jump in. I'm like, it's like, right, see the sign, right? It's right there.
You know why that probably is?
So
is they're probably being deployed, and this goes back to training and scheduling, they're probably being deployed to places that they don't usually work.
Yep.
But how are you supposed to effectively clean a park where you don't know where the park goes? You don't know where the trash cans are!
So
maybe that explains all the toilet paper in the restroom. They can't find it.
I will defend your point and oppose it at the same time.
That I knew nothing about and got told 2 days before it was happening, hey, guess what? We need people to fill in at Port Orleans. Guess where you get to go for 2 weeks? Port Orleans. Have fun. I knew nothing about anything.
No one walked you around like when you got there was like, here's what you gotta do?
No, I had to figure out the
very
day.
bad.
That's a management problem.
That's where it's wrong. But they're
at the bus and just go and figure out how to get my costumes, and it was peace be with you. And I got paired with somebody my first day, and that was it.
Well, hey, at least you got.
But to be honest, though, imagine you were transparent. Like, again, if I'm a guest and I ask you where the bathroom is that your first day in your new hotel or new resort, and you said, to be honest, my first day working in this place, I have no idea either, but let's find that place for you. Now it becomes fun, and you walk me to help me try to find it, and I'm okay with that. There's that transparency. Now, granted, I'm going to say...
All right, but here's the real problem.
I have 2 points.
I don't know, or say, I'm not really sure.
I don't know what anyone's saying, because everyone's talking over each other. Ashley,
he did it to me.
Ashley, make your point. Ashley, go ahead.
Pete is right. You don't, again, it goes back to, you don't say, I don't know, or, if you don't know, you admit you don't know, but I'm going to find somebody who can help you. It's not just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or, and you just guess. I think that makes me more upset even than I don't know, is when they guess and tell you something completely wrong.
That's wrong.
You know that they're lying, and they're trying to convince you that it's true because they want you to go away.
Go ahead, Pete.
No, I was going to say just 2 things on what you guys both just said. Is one, well, to that story is I agree. You shouldn't guess. I remember I was walking up to scan my Magic Band for a Fast Pass to Splash Mountain, and the person behind me asked the person, the cast member there, hey, we can't find Slinky Dog. Do you know where Toy Story Land is? And that cast member at Magic Kingdom at Splash Mountain said, and kind of did a scan of the park.
Shut up!
And then said, I'm not too sure, but I'll get back to you. Not even knowing Toy Story Land wasn't in the Magic Kingdom. Which, and again, keep in mind, this is my team tonight. I'm on Team Cast.
No, you've been
So
very
there is
fair.
there is
You've been
some
very fair.
there is the again, people get thrown in situations. I prefer transparency with cast members. Tell me if you don't know, or have some fun with it. The other thing I was going to say is just to Tom's point, and you said you go off personal experience, is that you are in the parks more than most 94 to 98% of people in the world.
Not anymore.
So you get but you get a much larger sample size. So when I'm there on my short 1 week trips, I might only see like one cast member maybe do something that annoys me here or there. And also I'm still, and I think most tourists or most people who are there not as often are still drawn to the sounds and the sights. And now you've kind of gotten used to that where you're picking up on those little things in cast members that a lot of us may not pick up on, to be fair. However, is there a room for improvement? 100%, and it comes back down to training, which is what I was going to say the entire time.
I don't think it's
And
that,
also-
'cause I think in the short time I spent at all the other Disney resorts, I think in a couple of days you get the feel and you know what's going on. I think there is a different vibe at all of them. They all have different problems, and our big problem, I think, is the size. And I think because of the size, we just throw people into scheduling wherever, and no one knows what the hell they're doing. I think that's our problem. I think that is, for the most part, exclusive to here. California, that's not a problem. California, you have bad cast members. It's never because they don't know what's going on. They all know what's going on.
Yeah. There's a heck of a
The
lot
other-
around here.
Yeah.
The other thing that I want to say that's very similar to what Tom just said with the other resorts, and this goes straight to the culture argument, is that the Disney Cruise Line charges a premium price and provides a premium product, but provides much better service from the cast members than the parks do.
Yeah.
So that's the same arm of the company with different training and a different pay grade can provide the service just like the parks used to do 20 years ago.
Do you know why? There's
Yeah, well,
several
I mean,
reasons. They don't
almost-
mess with them because they continue to make consistent money. They never mess around with them. They never cut their budgets. The people who work on a ship for a certain period of time, so they know that ship forward, backwards. And the problem is, again, comes back to Florida, where we're just throwing people wherever, and the people are just picking up shifts at things they don't understand. And
The people on the ships, the people on the cruise line also work for tips.
Yeah, there you go.
Where
It's a different
their
economic
service
model.
is dependent on, or their service it provides higher tips if the service is better.
Yeah.
Now, not all of them do.
yeah, I was
But
gonna say, you don't tip the guy
in-
on the aqueduct before you go down the slide.
You don't. But the other thing too is that
You guys don't do that?
the cast members, the cast members on the cruise ships come from a lot of different parts of the world. They're on a fixed contract for a fixed length of time, and they realize they need to do a good job and make money because they're going to be out of that job at a certain time, and they could certainly renew their contract, but they don't always renew their contracts. So it's definitely easier for Disney to keep people on the ships that are good, and not like at the parks where they need so many people that they're really scraped at the bottom of the barrel to hire enough cast members to just provide the baseline services.
Yeah. All right. We're running out of time, so quickly I want to go around. Anyone, and no counterpoints on these. Anyone has remaining pet peeves that have not been mentioned? Nick and Cameron, you've been quiet.
Just been focusing on these camera angles. I'm trying to get the best ones.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you have one?
Just going back to what's already been said, the whole if you don't know the answer, don't admit that you don't know it. As
you
someone
have a
who's-
lot of these recently.
As someone who spends a lot of hours in the parks, if I got significantly less I don't knows, my park experiences would be significantly better. None of the cast members know seemingly anything at this point, whether it be questions about a new experience that just came out, happened, directions, anything.
Cupcakes.
You
No
name
one
it.
ever knows what's in a cupcake.
People don't know. And it's just a big old uninformed mess.
You work at a restaurant and you don't know what's in your cupcakes.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to know what's in those cupcakes?
Yes,
Like,
I have to
truly?
write about them. People want to know.
Ignorance is bliss, Tom.
Nick.
Yeah, I feel like at one point I felt like the cast member treated me like it might be my first time on this ride or at this attraction or at this park or at Walt Disney World. And I guess I don't feel that anymore. So that might point to training. That might just point to an attitude of the workforce these days. I don't know. The other thing is that, and this isn't, I know this isn't where we're going with this necessarily, but I will just say, if you've ever been to Busch Gardens, Universal, or SeaWorld in the past few years, I have had absolutely atrocious cast member interactions on a hourly basis at the park. I mean, everyone that I come in contact with is just like, it's like they're working at a fast food restaurant and they throw their food in front, the food in front of me. They don't care at all. So the culture is still different at Disney World.
It's still better, yeah.
It's still different, and there's still something that they're doing in the training that is different than these other theme parks.
It's just not as good as it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Although I think Universal's catching up, though. I mean, the gap is closing.
They've gotten
Nick
better
did-
for
They've
sure.
gotten
Nick didn't say Universal,
I did. I said
right? He
Universal.
said Bush.
He did.
No,
Oh,
I said
okay.
Universal.
Yeah, no, I
So I
still had
just
very
to
bad.
give them fair defense, but
Yeah.
I think the two pet peeves I really have. Number one are cast members forgetting they're on stage and making it into social time with other cast members or with their friend cast members who aren't in costume that are just in the parks. Number two is just inconsistencies. I mean, when the kids were at the height levels that were kind of in between, we would go to the front check and they would say, all right, my son, he's fine to go on mission space. We get all the way in and then the cast member there says, no, he's not. So, if we'd just been told no up front, that's a lot easier to take than to go all the way through the queue and then be rejected. So just small things like that. I mean, that's going to happen, but that's irritating.
Yeah, no, the socializing one is my big one, and I've noticed that is a bigger problem. California, it's real bad too. It's even worse in California. But I've noticed the last 2 years that, and that's, I mean, I've been in the parks full time for more than 2 years now, and so it's a very recent thing that this just everybody just talking about work on the clock in front of guests, and we didn't do that when I worked at Toys R Us. We yelled at for doing that. Never mind at Disney World. I don't know what happened where that's suddenly okay. I don't get it.
It's management not telling them not to do it.
Yeah.
It's truly management.
Management sometimes is talking with them.
That's my biggest pet peeve.
That's
Yeah, I was at Animal
Well, I
Kingdom the
mean,
other
in
day,
a
that
lot of
happened.
cases, the first line of management is really not much more than cast members with a couple months of experience.
A slight pay increase.
Right? And
Yeah.
and 25 cents more an hour.
Coordinators.
They're not
I
really
was gonna say,
management like we
I
want
make
to
a
think
quarter
of them
more.
as
I'm in
management.
charge here.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's
No,
more
but
like they've been
but that's
around
15
for a
minutes,
bit.
you're all going to switch places.
That's a little too deep.
Yes.
It's I'm the manager.
But that's really true in any job you go to.
Oh, it's absolutely
especially
true.
Especially if you're new, and with the turnover at Disney, with all the new kids coming in every 6 months and whatnot,
Yeah.
is that you look to the person who's your supervisor, and if you see them on their phone or not,
supposed
BSing
to
with
set the
somebody else,
example, yeah.
you're gonna think, oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's going
Right.
to be in you until
Absolutely.
someone tells you it's not, and then you're
And
going to
the
go, well,
problem is-
that's the way it's been for the year.
The problem is they don't pay the supervisors enough not to do that,
They don't pay anyone.
just like they don't
Yep.
pay the cast members enough not to do
By
that.
the way, if we
It's-
can go back to Tokyo for a moment, if we may. Yes.
We always go back to Tokyo.
There's
Oh,
a
my
reason.
goodness.
There's a great reason for that, though. Do you want to know what they pay their front line, bottom of the food chain cast members? You know what they get if you convert it? $18
Just one
an hour.
origato.
$18 an hour in U.S. dollars. That is way more than any frontline cast member at the bottom of the food chain is making at any Disney-owned theme park in the world. And if you want to see cast members really not care, go to Shanghai. Nobody cares.
All right.
Everyone's looking at their phone. Nobody cares about anything that's going on in Shanghai.
Oh, geez.
For the 90% of the audience who haven't been overseas, here's the deal: is that I think that every cast member, I mean, this really comes down to, so this is, if you're asking for my pet peeves, and again, I'm team cast member, but I'm just saying, is that I think they all, like, you know how everyone says, I wish everyone should have to wait tables at least once in their life. And it's because it's about a courtesy and about, if you don't know the answer, it's, let me go find that out for you. You're working for a tip the whole time, so you're always extremely courteous. And I think that's what I love most in most of the cast members, is that they are like that. They have a smile on their face. It's almost as if I want to tip them when I walk away. There is that, and again, we disagree on this percentage, but 10% of front of the house cast members that miss that train, that they're not there, they hold on, or I don't know, or they're maybe a little 10%. Rude.
Tom, there's a good question in the chat for clarification.
What's the chat?
Is that $18 for full-time workers or part-time workers?
Both.
So there you go.
It's both. That is their lowest wage. Yeah.
I think also there's a lot fewer.
Yeah, but keep in mind,
they don't have
the cost
a lot
of living in Tokyo
part-time.
is $17 million a year.
Okay, and what's it in Anaheim?
The cost of living.
Yeah.
You ever try to buy a studio in Anaheim? Do you know how much a studio in Anaheim is? $1,500 a month for a studio. It's not even a bedroom. It's a room. It's this room. $1,500. Those people are making $8 an hour. You think they're living comfortably in Anaheim? They're not.
They're getting a full studio that's in a studio? That's amazing.
Oh, God.
Defend this company. This company makes so much money. And the fact that we defend the pay they give, the service they give, or any of these declining things, the maintenance, all these things, is disgusting. I love this thing.
I don't think anyone is saying that they deserve the pay that they get. Everyone thinks they should
watch
make
this
money.
company destroy
And
itself.
if we upped the money that they would make, then you can do a little more QA/QC with your staff. Like, hey, you were rude. You're getting complaints, or hey, we just saw you on your cell phone. Get out of here.
Or if
now
everybody
we can't
didn't
afford
leave
that. It's
in
like
6 months.
Yeah.
That's the other
Yeah.
And it's retaining your.
We can't ignore that there's a history of Walt Disney, the company, having issues with labor. It is ingrained in the earliest days of Disney. Sure. And I mean, if there's one thing Walt didn't like, it was a whistleblower. And that's very clear. And so as much as we want to say there's an ingrained desire for cast members who know what's up and that are in it, there's also an ingrained desire in the company to not pay people what they're worth.
Yeah, but he may have at least raised the wage a little bit at some point.
Well, and that may be true, but the difference too is that 20 years ago, new cast members would go through 3 days of traditions training.
Agreed.
Now they're lucky if they get 3 hours of training. So it's not even the pay; it's the effort that the company makes to train them.
Yeah.
Hey, no tattoos, no cursing, and be nice to people. Now get out there and make some magic.
Facial hair is okay. Any final pet peeves, because we are out of time. Anyone have any they didn't get to read?
Well, mine's not necessarily pet peeve, but I think, to kind of surmise what all we've said, I think it really does. It's clear. It's management and training, and I won't name names, but especially middle management. I think they're in a rock and a hard place. They want to help the cast members. They care, but upper management sucks, and that's they're not paying people right. They're not training people right. They're not doing scheduling right.
There's
for instance, I had a friend of mine
to begin with. Is a most problem.
And that's true. But,
I think
some of them genuinely care, because a lot of them have worked their way up, and now they've kind of hit that plateau. If they can't go any higher, they're being treated like management, but not really. And I think, for instance, I had a friend of mine who didn't find out crucial information about his job until we ran a story about it.
Yeah, that sounds about
His upper management had known for weeks.
Yeah.
Didn't tell him so that he could filter it down to his cast members, and he found out because we ran a story.
If you want
that's terrible.
If you want to know about the rise of WDW NT to power, it is miscommunication within the Walt Disney Company.
And Bob. It's sad, and I think it filters. I think it does. It filters all down from him. He doesn't care. He doesn't. He makes it clear that he doesn't respect.
As much as I love to throw that beautiful bald man under a bus, it started way before him. I'm not gonna say this
No,
is
but I think-
particularly a him problem. But you know.
I think that culture of not caring has empowered him, and I think it has trickled down from that. They don't respect the tradition. Again, the traditions of the company.
I don't know if
They
that's
don't.
the case.
They don't
I don't
respect
know if
it
that's the
anymore.
case.
I don't
All
think
right.
they do, and I think it's little by little going down more.
Well, either way, we are completely out of time. We can always talk about this more for those of you who are Wigs members. On the
Wigs.
Wigs post show, it's coming up next.
Yay!
But it's time to end this show, Nick. And remember, kids, you can design and create and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it takes people to make the dream a reality. Good night.
Uh oh.